I had a quick question. You said I didn't do good on the Word document. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's okay now.
Okay. Is you made some comments about my Word document. I don't know exactly what I did wrong though.
Okay. So the first thing, have you watched I think that you joined the class last week, right? So I give you some instruction to working with the word here. So basically for this one, you have to break it down. You have to break it down into the software the development life cycle, right? So we know that you have to do everything with what you have to do with the analysis, what you have to do with the design, what you have to do with the coding, and what you have to do with the testing here, right? So you have to break it down into step here, and in the analysis for this one, you know that you have to do everything. What are the output and what are the input, and what's a variable, and what formula you have to use, something like that, right? And you will have to figure out that what is the data type variable here, and what formula you have to use, right? So for this one, you have to know that you need something. The output here is average for each student and average for the class, right? And so in order to input here, so in order to have the output, you need input. And what do you think? What are the input for this one?
Well, I slightly forget the assignment.
Sorry.
Was I slightly forget the assignment that we did. I can look again. Hey.
Okay, this one, right? So you know that for this one here, you see. So the output average score for each student and the overall class average. Right? So for this one, you have two output here. Output for average for each the student and the overall class here. So in order to have the output, you need the input here. You need to enter for every student. You need to enter the 3 score here, right? And so you have to enter the number of students or whatever it is. And also for in the analysis, you know that you have to do everything with the output, right? So you have to identify what's the output and what are the input here, and you also have to identify the formula. You know that for the formula to calculate average for student is very simple, right? So you add them up together and you divide by 3. But how about the class? You also have to think about the formula here. And in the analysis, you also have to identify what is the data type of the variable here, right? So you also have to verify that whenever the user enters the score, you have to make sure that he enters the number format, and and the score here is range from the 0 to 100 here. All of the things you have to come up in the analysis. So we have to work in very detailed and very specific here. Remember, you have to break it down. You always have to break it down into the step. You have to break it down into step. And for the software developer life cycle, you have to form the step. You have analyze it here. You have the first in analysis. You know that you have to figure out what's the output here. What's the input? So for some output and input here, so what is the formula you have? The formula here, and how to validate the data. So we know that for the score here, validate the data. For the score, you have to check, make sure it's in the number format, and in the range from 0 to 100 here. So that's everything. You have to go very specific on the analysis here. And so also, how can you figure out what's of the average here? You know that for the average student, you have the inner loop here. So for this one, you have the inner loop here. That you have the 3 score, and you sum it up, and you divide by 3. You have the student average. So how about the class average? Actually, for this one, you have the outer loop also, right? You have loop inside the loop here, outer loop here. So outer loop, you just sum it up, all of them together, and you divide by the number of students, and divide by 3. You have the class average here. So that's the overview about analysis. Remember, analysis everything about what are the input. So from the input, you know, so what are the input in order to have the output, and what's a formula you have to use in order to giving out the output here. And you also have to validate the data, right? You have to make sure that he enters the number format and range from 0 to 100, something like that. And how the structure, you know that you have to use a netted loop here, you have the inner loop and outer loop here. So that's everything about analysis. For the design here, for the design, you can use a pseudocode, or if you break it down into the modular structure, you know that you have to draw the hierarchy chart here. So you have the main module, and you break it down. You can break it down in the submodule here. This one, it's up to you. If you want to working with a modular structure, you have to draw the modular structure here. But if you don't break it down into the modular structure, you don't have to do that. So everything about the design, everything about the pseudocode, about hierarchy chart, about the flow chart here. So I don't require you have to do with the flow with pseudocode. So it's up to you. If you break it down in the modular structure, you have to draw the hierarchy chart here. So the third one is the coding. The coding that you do with everything is the wrapper here. And the fourth one is the testing. One more thing about the design here, I forgot to mention. In the design here, in the design step, you also have to figure out what is the testing scenario here. I know. Come back to the design step here. You always have to figure out what is the testing scenario here. All right. So what happened? What happened if the user enters the string here? You have to warning that you cannot enter the string for the score. And what happened if the user enter negative score here? You also have to give the warning. Right? And in case here, in the case that you have 2 students, to make it simple, right? In the case you have 2 students here, and here the first one you have the 3 scores, the 50, 60, and 70. You expect that the average here is a 60. And the second one here, you have the 60, 70, and 80. You expect the average here is the 70. And that thing is simple, right? Thing is simple that you only have the 2 students here. So in that case, when you print out the class average here, you expect that it is 65 here. That's all the testing scenario you also have to come up during the design step here. You have to very specify what is your testing scenario here. So think about this one. What happened if he enters the string format? If what happened if he enters the negative or the more than 100 here, so 110 here, you must giving out the warning here. Right? And in the case he enters the correct format here, 50, 60, 70, and 70, 60, and 80. you will expect that the output here is a 60, output here is a 70, and the class average here is a 65. Right? So everything is that you do it in the design, and now when you're coding, so when you're done with the router, the first step you testing here, you have to come back. You have to come back with the testing scenario here. You verify that what happened if you enter string, it's correct or not, right? What happened if you enter the negative here, it's giving out the warning or not, and what happened if you enter the 70, 60, 50, 70, and 60 and 70 here, it's giving out the average is 60 or not, and how about the class average here, it's giving out correct or not. All of this you always have to break it down into the step, and you also have to giving out the information for each step here, very, very specific here. Any question? Hello?
No, that
No.
wraps up pretty well.
Okay, so let me correct some of the homework here. Okay, so basically this one is a good one also, but for this one you can optimize. You see, if you break it down in two branches here, right? So we see what you have here. If you break it down in two branches, so every time you see that every time here, right? Every time you have to enter the number from the 1 to 10. So instead of doing it twice here, you can modify it, you put it out here. So we just need to do it one more time only, right? So we don't have to coding more. Or for this one, you see, you don't have to break it down this one, right? You don't have to break it down with this one. You can use, let me show you, you can use you print out the output here. How many attempts you have? You tell that you what do you think? What do you think here? You have the 3 minus count here, right? That's all. You see that if you guess the first time, so you have print out that 3 minus 1, you have the 3 more attempt, and if you get the 2 time, you have 2. Sorry, you have 3 minus 2, you have the 1 more attempt here. Right? So it's make it simple. Make it more simple here for this one. So you can run it now. So we see, so we number here. So what happened if I enter the number 1? Sorry, what is this? Sorry, yes, I had to modify this one. Okay, so see, if you get this, you have a 2 attempt remaining, you have 1 attempt remaining, right? So you can use the count here, and you tell how many attempts you have left. That's a very, very simple improvement with the program here. How about this one? Okay, so here, you know that in order to generate the random number from the 1 to 10, you have to use the correct the function here. That's it might be 10 here, not 9. Right? You know that, right? Or you can use or for this one you can use the ceiling function. Right? You have to use the ceiling function, right? And you put it here, the ceiling here. You have the ceiling here. You have 10 here, right? So when we have the ceiling, that means you round it up, so it generate everything from the 1 to 10 here. Okay. It's up to you. So this one also, right? This one here, you have 2 remaining child, you have 1 remaining child, you have 2 remaining child, you have 1 remaining child here. This one also, right? You see, actually, this one and this one exactly the same. This one exactly the same here. Right? So you can optimize. It's up to you. So you think that you can delete it here and use that. Put it outside here. Right? Put it outside here. So you see, the program is look. It's way better. Now for this one, what is it? Total score, you have 0, you have 1, enter the number of students. This one is good, right? So if you want to use validate the number of students, remember that you have to enter the integer positive here, right? So what happens if you enter the negative number? What happens if you enter the floating number, right? So see what happens if you enter the 2.6 here, right? Still going well, right? So it's not the case here. So it's if you want to use the defensive technique here, remember that for this one you have to verify that he enters a positive integer number here, right? So it must be his number and checking is the score here greater than 0 or not, and in the range from the 0 to 100 here, something like that, right? So for this one, what happened here? Right, so he enters the first score, he enters the second score, and enter the third score, and user print out the student average here, and thus for this one it's only the student average, right? So you see, if I enter here, I enter the 50 here, 50 here. Why always the first score here? The second score, I don't know what happened. And the third score, let's see here. Ah, okay. Let's see.
There's no way to exit out of the loop.
I don't know what happens this one. And where is the number 3? Right, so number 3 here. Okay, so it's a 50 here. The first betting score, right? Now second betting here, 60 here. Third here, 70 here. Ah, he do it with the recursive here, right? Where it is? Where is the recursive here? Oh, he got it. Got it, this one. You come back it here. So actually, yeah, I know for this one here. So yes, let me look at this one. You have the main average here. You have then enter the number of student here, right? So remember that if you want to verify the number of student, you have to verify it's a positive integer number here, right? So we check the condition here. The condition here when the count greater than number of student is good, and you come back with the recap, call it back with the submodule here, right? So now enter the number of student as I have the 2 student here, right? I have 2 students here. So enter the first one, you have the first student, you have the 50, you have the 60, and you have the 70 here, the first student, right? So now the second student, you have the 60, you have the 70, and you have 80 here. Okay, so now it exit, right? It exit, yeah, so good. So we have the test average for the student number 1 is a 60, the test average for the student number 2 is a 70, and the class average here is a 65. The output is very good, right? But the thing I have some comment here, right? If you want to use the deficit technique, you have to make sure that the number here is a positive integer number. And so for the score here, you have to make sure it is an integer number in the range from 0 to 100 here. So what happened if he enters the negative number here? What happened if he enters the score more than 100 here? And for this one here, I don't like the way this one. Actually, for this one, it is a separate of the 3 loop here. But in this one, you're able to do with the inner loop. You do it everything from 1 to 3 and do it again and again and again instead of the 3 separate here. You got my point? So for this one, you say you can enter you have for this one, you should have about everything. You have the assignment here. You have the idea. That one at the beginning here. And the you can verify the number, the score here, right? Is the score number and score here greater than or equal 0 and score here. Sorry, you have score. Something like that, right? Make it simple, right? So if not, you have to make sure. And you remember that you do it for 3 times here, right? So actually for this one, you have one more loop here. And this one is the inner loop. You put it inside the inner loop here. Inside the loop. Yeah. So we see you do it for 3 times, right? And the score number 1, score number 2, score number 3 for student here. And you remember that every time inside here, you just add them up together, right? So what is it? Student average here. Right, you delete this one. We have the student sum first. We have the sum first. Or you have a sum. You have sum. Let's score here, right? And in order to do that, we at the beginning you have to set the sum equal to 0 here. I remember that. So we have to set the sum outside here. You have to set sum equal to 0. That is a sum for every student, right? That's why you put it outside the inner loop here. So whenever you enter score, add it up to the sum, add it up to the sum, add it up to the sum. So when you really have the more than, right? When you have the more than 3 students here, use that as student average here. You have student average divided by 3 here, right? So now you don't have this one anymore. You see, you only need you have the netted loop here. So the inner loop, it is the inner loop is the 3 students here, right? You have students, 3 students here. Sorry, 3 score here, and the outer loop you have the number of student. You have the number of student here. You got my point? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the thing. I want to make some comments that if you print out the prompt, try to make it more sense, right? You can enter the step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, for student number 1, number 2, number 3, something like that. It makes more sense. And for this one, you don't have to do with you don't have to 3 times separately. Instead of that, you do the loop with the 3 times here. So we enter score number 1, 3, 4 here. Okay, so here is actually this one is not run anything. This one here, you see, if you run it here, student number 1, you have the student grade for that. I have a 50 here, 60 here, 70 here, sorry. Where? I don't know how to exit the program here. So I have the 60, 70, 80. Yeah, it keep going on, and I don't know how to exit program here. The thing with this program here, you see, the condition here, the condition to exit the loop here is number test score here. It's correct, right? You check it here. But you see, you enter the total score. Why you take this test score here? Why take this test score here? And this one, total score less than 100 and test score greater than 100, greater than 10 here. It's totally messy. The condition for this one is totally messy. You enter the total score, so you have to verify with the total score here, not test score. And you have to check with the total score here is greater than 0, not test score here. You got my point? Right? So for this one, totally it's a messy. It gives nothing with the output here. I don't know. This one, it's not good program. Okay, so this one, let me check it on. So I have the two students here. Right? I have 2 students here. So I put the student name here. Now enter the score. I have this one is a 50. The second one you have the 60. And third one you have the 70 here. Now I have the second student here, right? I have the 60 and 70. I have 80 here. Yeah, this one is good, right? You see that you print it out very good here. You look at I have the this one is 70 because I enter the 50, 60, and 70, and this one is I enter the 60, 70, and 80. I have this one, and the class everything here is good also, right? And just want to make it better for this one that you should make that enter the testing score number 1, number 2, number 3 for student number 1, number 2, number 3, something like that to make it more sense, right? So it helps the end user to follow what is going on in the program here instead of keep guessing here how many students I already enter and what is the score of the student. It might be score number 1, score number 2, or score number 3 here. Okay, so for this one also, right? So this one here, It's very you have the netted loop also, right? The outer loop is the number of students here, and the inner loop. What is the inner loop here? In the loop here, the 3 students here. Sorry, 3 score for each student here. But the condition here to exit the outer loop is the y the count 2 is equal to 20. So you make it before that you have to enter for 20 students to exit the loop here. So what happens if my class only have the 10 students or 5 students or 30 students here, right? So instead of fix to the 20 here, you have to ask here the user that how many students you have, right? So instead of the 20 here, you have one step here. Yeah, you have one step here, how many students you have, right? You have. So put the student here. Okay, so now you see, instead of the fix to the 20 here, you just put it here. Whenever count number 2 equal to student. Right? You exit the loop. Right? So we see if he enters the 5 student, this one the 5. If he enters the 15 student, is this one the 15 here. It's not always stick to the 20 student here. Right? So for this one, you can check. Now think about I have the 2 student here. I have 2 students here. Right? So now we do everything with the student name. Right? So input the student first score here. That is the thing here. Why always first score? Right? See, why first score again? It's not good at all, right? It's not good at all. Why first score? This should be the second score here. And this should be the third score here. All right. Now I finished for the first student. Right? I finished with the first student. Now I move to the second student here. I have the city. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, this one. One more thing about this one. You don't print out the average of the student here. You don't print out anything with the average of each student here. So actually for this one, it's a lot of problems. The first one is stick to the 20 students. The second one, that in the prompt, you always asking input student first score here. It can be the first, can be second, can be third here, not always. And for this one, you are missing print out the average for each student here. Right? That's the thing. You got it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, here the enter Y is to continue or N for exit. It's good also. It's good. It's and put N exit it here, right? And the student and the first exam score, second exam score, and third exam score, and average score is this one, right? So this thing here. This one is not good, right? So instead of doing it 3 times here, you just do the loop with the 3 times, right? Just do the loop here, and every time you just enter here. So instead of break it down into the first, second, and third here. Now you have average score here, the first, second, third divided by 3, and average score, this one. But you don't have anything with the class average here, you see? But this one, you don't have anything with the class average here, right? So see, and yes, I want to continue here. So I put it here and 50, 60, and 70 here, right? Yeah, I have the yes here, right? I have 60, I have 70, and I have 80 here. Now I know, put no to exit it here. So we see you have the average for the first student here, the second student here, it's good, but you don't have anything with the class average here. Right? That's the problem with the program here. And you know how to fix it, right? You just maintain the counter, you sum it up together and divide by number of students and divide by 3 here. For the number 2 here, I see that a lot of you got problem with doing it, right? So think about, I have to enter the number -3 here, -8 here. What is it? Where? Where's the problem? I have to cancel this one. It's very slow down my process. And now I exit here. You see, if I enter the -3, -8, 8 and 3, I have the big number, the 8 correct, but small number here 3. It's not correct. Right? It's not correct here. That's why I'm asking you that you always have to do with the testing scenario here. You always have to, what happened if I enter the number 3? Sorry, what happened if I enter the -3, -8, 8 and 3? I expect that the biggest number is the 8 and the smallest number -8 here. This one is not correct here. You see, this one not correct here. Okay? And you know that if you look on my instruction for the last class here, that's the best way is that you assign the big and the small to the first one and keep comparing with this one here. Okay, this one is not good here. Okay, so how about this one? Let's see what happened here. This one also, if I enter the number -3 here, -8 here, I have 3 here. This one again, you see, you have the same mistake here. The largest is 8, but the smallest is number 3 here. It's not correct at all. Right? It's not correct at all. That's why for every program here, you always have to figure out what is the testing scenario. So when you're done with the coding, you stick to the testing scenario here. You see that the output is what you expected or not here. Okay. So how about this one? I enter number -3 here, 8 here, sorry, -8 here, and 3 here. Okay, so now what happened here? You good, right? It's the largest number, but what happened here? Let me show you what happened here. If I enter everything about -10, -2, -7. Why put the -7? Why is 7 here? Let me do it again. Let me do it again here. I enter the -10 here, -2 here. Now I enter exit here. So we see, even that I enter the -10 and -2, the smallest number here is correct, but the largest number is 0 here. It's not correct at all, right? It's not correct at all. So again, because you make mistake that you set the largest 0 here. So whenever it compares, always set to 0 here. If you don't have any number greater than 0, the largest number always 0 here. It's not correct at all. That's why you always have to figure out all of the settings in over here, right? That's the second number. Was this one also? I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this one. Right? So why do we need the height and why? Sorry, why do we for the first and second? Height is first, second. Lower is the second. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do this one. Right? You see, but this one here.
But it works.
Sorry.
I said I think it works though, maybe.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to do this one. So we have -3 here. You have the -8 here. What is it? Yes, right. G here. Keep going. So I have the 8 here. G here. And I have 3 here. Okay, so we see is the height here, the 8, and the length here, the -8 is correct. But the thing, if you look on the requirement here, you have, what is it? No, actually, you have a look on the requirement here. Number 6, right? So you have user and finish enter the number by enter the zero here instead of enter the question if you want to continue or not by enter the Q or G here. That is not exactly at the requirement here. So the thing you also have to pay attention when working with this one. Otherwise, and for this one, you don't have to do anything with this one. You don't have to do anything with this one here. So you can see you have -3 here. You have -8 here. You have 8 here. You have 3 here. You have 3 here. Q here. Okay, you see everything working well, right? Why? Why? Oh, what happened with our program here? Maybe. Okay. So we enter the first number and enter the second. Actually, for this one, you don't need to do that. Actually, for this one, I said that you have the high gate and low gate here. You just put it the first here. And then with both of them. Both of them here. Sorry. Low is 40. Where? You don't have to do that. So we just compare. You just compare them together. See what is it? What is the number -3 here? -8 here. G here. So we see every time I have to put the G and Q here, slow down process of running. Instead of if you want to exit the 0 here, you just put the 0 here. Okay, so see, you don't have to do anything with the first and second, something like that. And you see the height here, the low here, correct, right? So as I said that you just set the height and the low as the first, and whenever you compare, whenever you enter the new number, you just compare them and print it out here. wrong with this one? Okay, so any question for the homework, let me know.
Good.
Okay, you guys go with the homework, right? So now if you don't have any question, let me go to the chapter 7 here. The chapter 7 is everything you working with the array and the file here. And if you study on this chapter here, you find that it's way easier when working with the final project here. When working the multiple user here. Okay, so now we're talking, the first one is on one-dimensional array. One-dimensional array is a list of related data. So when you think about array here, whenever you think about arrays, they only related data and have the same name. Have the same data type.
I can't see the PowerPoint slide. It still shows your Windows Explorer.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so
Thank you.
whenever you're working with arrays, you have to remember that they are the related data of the same data type and the same name here, right? And the array is composed of element here, element, and each of the which is referenced by the array name and the position, right? So we think about, you have the score, think about it, you have score, and this one's the array here. So in the array here, you can have a multiple element in that. It can be score 1 or score here, score 2 here. So when you taking the element, you have the array name. The score here is array name, and the 1 and the 2 here is the element position, or you can call it the index here, right? So the array element is stored in the consecutive memory location. You think about, you have the score, right? You have the score, and you have the 10 element here. So actually, it reserve it 10. You reserve it 10 slot in the memory, and they are consecutive here. So basically, they working way faster with the processing here, right? And the position of element array is called subscripts or index here, right? So we have the score number 1. You have basically for score number 1, you can be the 1 and 2 and 3 here is a slot memory. And given an array name, you have score here, it is array name. And this one is element or index here, right? So this one is element. This one is element number 3 in the score array. And the 3 here is the index or the subscript here. Right. So each individual element of the array is referred by the writing the array name. See, array name and the index number. Think about this one. This one element. So you have the array name and the index number here. And in the most of language, the first element of the array has the index number 0 here. So we have the 0 here. You have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. But remember one thing here. You only have to remember one thing. When working with the raptor, so is the first index number is number 1 here. Right? So that is the difference between the pseudocode and the raptors. And remember, when working the raptor, you always have starting with the index number 1, not 0 here. Right? So basically, for all of the other language, is the first element of the array here is the number 0, and the second one is a 1, and the third one is a 2, and so on here. Okay. And to enter the element into array, it's very simple. You think about whenever working array, you have to think about the loop, right? Because you see, they have the same name, and the only difference is the index here. So if you want to enter 10 score for the 10 score here, you just do the loop, right? You just do the loop and do it 10 times. And the score 1 and the score 2 and score 3 and 4 and 5 and so on here. Now think about this one here, right? You have the loop here. The starting index is 0 and the ending index here is 24, right? So every time you just increase the index by 1. So every time it's enter score. So the first one enter score 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and until the 24 here, right? So keep in mind that whenever you're working with the array, you have to think about you working with the loop here. Okay. And in order to some of the programming it requires that you have to declare the array before you using. Right? So basically, when you declare the array is the same, right? You just declare, and this one is the name of the array, and this one is the size. Right? So when you declare the age 6 here, that means maximum you have the 6 element in the array here, and this one the data type here. Right? So this one you see, you can have everything from 0 to 5. That means you have the size element, and you can have the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. They are integer number here. Right? And in order to fill in the array, it is the same. It's very simple, right? So you see, you want to enter the weekly sale here. You have the size here, the 52 element, because you need the 52 weeks in 1 year, right? Then this one floating, and again, you see, you have the loop here, everything from 0 to 51, right? That means 52, and that as the user enters the cell for the week, the week k plus 1, because it's starting from 0. That's why you have the k plus 1 here, right? So if k0 is starting with the week number 1, k2 is starting with the week number 2 here, and so on. And every time user enter the number, and which is stored in the weekly cell, and this one is index here. So this one is the element here, right? Combination of the name of array and the index here. Okay, so here's the example, right? Here's the example here. You enter the rainfall. You enter the rainfall for 12 months in the year. You put here. You see, you enter the rainfall for the 12 months of the year, and after that, you just sum them up together. Right? So when you have to sum them up together, you can be able to figure out what's the average here by the sum, and divide by 12 for the 12 months here. And even that, you see that you only enter all of them in the array, right? So in the array, everything is you have the array of the rain here, the rain here. So everything is rain here. You have the 12, and everything from 0 to 11 in that here element here, right? So when they already store in the array, you're able to access it later. You see, this one is access it later and print out the rainfall of the every month here. So if you look on the array, and if you look on the variable, there are something different, right? So if you see about, if you use a variable here instead of the rain, you have the rain here, right? So every time you enter the new rain, it override. Right? So the first month you have the 10. Now the second month you have 15. It override number 10 here. Actually, if you use a variable, you only have one slot in the memory, and whenever you enter the new one, it will override the old one here. Right? So you have no way to print out the whole thing here later here. Right? That is the benefit of array that you can reserve all of the data into the consecutive memory, and it's very helpful for you to access it later to print out or to do the calculation here. Okay. So now you can do this one with the raptor. You do this one with the raptor here. Remember one thing, the only difference between the raptor and this one here. In the raptor, you only have starting with the index from the number 1, not the number 0 here. Okay, that's the only difference here. Okay, now try to do this one with the raptor. And if you need my help, let me know. Do it with the raptor. Are we done with that?
Still working on it.
Okay. Okay, so we see you have you have to do the loop, right? So whenever you want to enter here, you have to do the loop, and you have the index here. So the first thing you have to initialize the index first, right? And you know that for the after you starting with the index number 1, that's why you set the key here is number 1, not a number 0 here, right? So now you have to maintain the loop. And the condition, what do you think? What is the condition of the loop here? What's the condition of the loop?
When k is less than or equal to 12.
Yes, so when k12 or greater than, you exit it, right? You see, so every time user enters the rainfall, right, you put somewhere this. You have the input here inside the loop, right? And now you store it into the array, right? And the name of the array is the rain and element here, element every time the key here, right? So and what else? What do you think? What else? What else? If you look on the program here, what is missing here? What's the input? What's the missing?
Plus 1.
Plus 1.
You have starting here, you have the condition here, and every time you have to increase the counter. Otherwise, it will be the infinite loop here, right? So you have what's that? You have assignment here. Okay, plus 2 here. That's what everything we've done with the you've done with the input, right? So you have the input, and you also want to do the sum, right? So in order to do the sum here, you know that in order to do the sum, it's accumulation. So in order to do the accumulation, you only have to set the sum is a 0 at the beginning here. You only have to set the 0 here, get the sum here, you set the 0 here, right? So whenever you add the new one, you just add them up to the sum. So you have the sum here. If the sum equal to the old sum plus the new one, you just enter here, the rain and k here, right? capital K. So now you've done everything with you already done everything with the input here, right? So outside of the input, you have the average here equal to the sum. You minus you divide by 12, right? You see this one here, right? So now again, you just do everything a print now, right? So we do a print now here. You see it's the same. You just do it one more time here. Do the loop here. Yeah. But this one, instead of enter, you just print it out, right? You print it out here. So you enter input here instead of the input. You just print out here. And one more thing about this one. If you look on this one here, let me show you. When you run everything from one, right? So we keep going until the 12 here, right? So when I exit this one, the key already 12, right? So now if you look on this one, if you look on this, you have to reset the key, right? So in that case, you have to step here. You have to reset the key to number 1, back to the number 1 again. Back to number 1 again. Right? So every time you increase it here, number 1, number 2, number 3. Now let's run it here. Okay, 1 here, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So see, you enter the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12. You have, I'm sorry, I have to print out the average here, right? I have to print out the average. Okay. Sorry. Oh my God, I forgot to save it where it is. Yeah, that's all. You see what the output here? You will have average is 6.5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? So you see, by working with the array, right? When you enter them, each of the number is stored in the element here, and after that you are able to access it later. And if you run here, you see how it works here, right? You have the sum here. You put the number 1 here. It's stored. You see, it's stored into the number 1 here. Now the number 2 is stored in the number 2 here. Now number 3 is stored number 3 here. You see, all of them, they have the same name, right? The same, the range here is the name of array. And in order to access for each element, you have the index here, you have index here, and you have index here. Okay? That is very, very benefits when working with the array here. You are able to store them into the slot, and you are able to access it later to do everything with processing here. So you have any question for this one?
I'm good.
Okay. So now we got come to the parallel RL. The parallel RL as array of the same size, right? You only have to think about they must have the same size, and which element at the same index are related, right? And they can be used when the array variable are related to each other by the position of the index here. You think about this one. You have two array here. You have number grades and you have letter grades. All of them, they have the same size. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 elements here. Right? You have element here. You have the same size, and you have the same index. So index number, so for this one, index number 0, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and they are related together. Right? They are related together here. You see, if you have the number 90, you have the A score here. The 80, you have B, you have the 70, you have C, and the 60, you have D, and the 50, you have F here. Right? So the parallel array, you have always have to think they have the same size, and they it's the same index. They are related together. You see, number 0, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 here. Okay, so here's an example. You can use a parallel array to find the best salesman here. To find the best salesman here, you see. You declare this one is named 100 here. It's the size, right? 100 here, and the size is 100. They are parallel. That's why you have the same size here. It has the same size, and you set the max here 0. You set the key here in the router. You have to set the number 1 here, right? So now for every time you just keep asking, enter the salesperson and the month sale, right? When we enter this one or 0 when it's done here. So every time you enter the name of the person, you enter the cell of this guy, and whenever the name here is, when the name equal to star, you exit it, but not, you keep doing it, right? Keep doing it here. So actually for this one, I think it's this one only, right? And put this one down here. Okay. And that you enter the cell here, you have to enter the cell here, right? So every time you enter that, you have to compare, right? So whenever this one is greater than mic, you change the new mic here, and you set you keep the index here, you keep the index, and you set the mic equal to sales the mic here, and after that, you just print out who has the maximum. You have the maximum sale of the month here. Okay. So actually, for this one, you look, they are parallel. They are parallel because they're matching between the name and the cell, right? It's the name and the cell here. So think about if you enter the number 5, number 10, number 15, number 20, number 20, and number 18 for this one. And this one is A, B, C, D, and E here. Right? So this one, you have the first person is A, and his cell is a 5, B is 10, C is 15, D is 20, and E is 18 here, right? And I expect that after I enter the 5% here, it giving out that the maximum is 20, right? Its maximum is 20, and this one it is 20, and his name is D here, and they are matching together. So that's why when you keep the index here, you know that this one is the index number 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So we have the index number 3 is the maximum, and with the index number 3, you know what is his name here, right? So you can do this one with the router. Right? You can try to do this one with router, and remember this one is parallel here. They are matching together. They have the same size, and every index they are related together here. Now try to do this one with the router here. So here's the thing, right? You see at the beginning, you set the mic is 0 here. The mic is 0. So now if you enter the 5, right, you have the 5 here greater than the mic, so you change the mic to 5. Right. The next one, you have enter the 10 here greater than the 5, you change the mic to 10. And next one, you have enter 15 greater than 10, you change it to 15. And we have a 20 20 greater than 15, you change it to 20, and you enter 18 less than, so we keep here, this one here, 20. Right? That's the way you're able to sort it out, which one is greatest one here. Maximum here. So every time you have enter cell. Okay, so I have to verify that if it's a name here is 0 or not, right? Sorry, so the name here is so if name, sorry, name here equal to one, exit it. If not, if not, I just store it. If not, I just store it into the arrays case here, right? So I have the name assignment here, right? Index is okay to name here. Just store it back to the array, and now I asking him to enter multi-cell. this one I just store it into the cells. Okay, so every time if you enter the new cell, you have to compare, right? You have to compare the max here. If greater than the max, you change it to the max here. You have the comparison here. This one is selection. You say if here, right? So when we have, you see the if, you have the selection here. Now if the cells K greater than maximum, okay, I just change the maximum to the new. Right? I just change the maximum to, okay. So one thing you have to store the index, right? You have to store the index here to know which one it is, because next time you have to draw out what is the name here. Right? That's why you have to store the index here. I have the assignment index set to the K. That's the first one, and the second one you have to set the new maximum in the cell here, right? It's the cells here. Okay, that is everything about the input and the take and take it out. Which one is the largest one here, the highest one, right? So the next one, you just print it out here. You just print it out. Which one is the highest here, right? The maximum cell, the month, maximum here. Okay. And you know you already have the index, right? You have the index. That's why you're able to print out what's the name here, because it's matching with the index here. All right, cell person. And you print out the name with the index you have, right? That's all. So now let's run it here. You run it here, and the monthly set, I put the 10 here, and you see it store everything in here, right? The name and the cell here, number one, the 10 here. Now I enter the second one. This guy here is 70, something like that. I have the 40 here. Okay, now I want to exit it here. Put this one exit. All right, so we see I enter here the name, the first guy, the second guy, the third guy. They store in the variable name here. And this is the first index, the second one, and the third one. Now they are parallel, right? So all of them, they have the same size here. They have the 3 elements. They have 3 elements. This guy, 10. This guy, 70. And this guy, 40. And we will compare them together. You see, this one is the highest here, right? This one is the highest here. That's why we have to print now. The highest here is the 70. And when you store the 70 here, right? When you store the 70, you know that the index here is number 2. So you keep the index here number 2, and after that you print out the name number 2. What is the name number 2? This guy here. Okay, it makes sense. Any question for this one?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
So the question is why arrays? Right? So the first benefit of the array here, they deal with the number of variable name, right? You know that if you're working with the variable here, right? So normally if you have a variable, So think about you have the cell here, right? You have the cell here, right? The cell. Think about the problem with the cell here, right? So you see that if you use one variable here, if you enter the first one, the 10, the second one, 15, it will override it, right? So we have no way to look it up what is the previous one here. And if you want to separate one, you have to use from multiple name here, right? You have the cell 1, cell 2, and cell 3 here, and go on. So actually you have a lot of slot memory here in the memory, and each of them is have a different variable name here. So very hard and very confusing for program here. But when working the array, you have the same name here, right? Have the same name, and the only difference that between them, they are the index number here, right? So it makes it way more simple here, and it improves the efficiency by allow the data to be read in the program once and process it many times administratively here. So when you store them into the separate slot here, they are not override together. So you are able to retrieve it, to read it, and do the processing later here. Right? And it increases the flexibility of the program. You use a loop and you do it for multiple times here, multiple times. But for this one, you see, if you want to enter for the 10 cell here, you have to do it for 10 times separately instead of using the loop. Right? For this one, you just using the loop and do it for 10 times, very simple. But this one, you have to do it manually for the 10 times here. Okay, and to reduce the number of if then statement here, you see, you can compare them. If cell, you just compare the name and the index instead of the 1, 2, 3, and go on here. So basically, you just think about the array is a kind of the loop, and you're able to do it from multiple times, and you're able to access it to with the post processing here. Okay, so here's some example here. I don't want to go into detail. And you have the words about the database. The database consists of many tables. And you think about the database consists of many tables, and they link together by many ways. And a table can contain a list of related data. A table is a group of parallel hits here. Right? So think about you have the table, it's a list of parallel lists, and the information in the table can be retrieved and processed for the last priority as the purpose. Turn the information from the table stored in the array in the computer program for easier manipulation here. Okay, so think about make it simple here, right? So you think about this one, all of them is a database here. And the database is a list include of the table. You see, you have this one a table, this one a table, and this one table. And the table they are parallel. All right, you think about they have the same size here. You have the student ID, you have the first name, you have the last name, you already pay for the tuition fee or not. All of them they are the parallel array because they have the same size and they are related together by the index here. Number 1, number 2, number 3, right? And think about this one. So if they have the table here, this table they are related together. Right? You think about if you have everything about education here, you have a finance here, and you have grade here. All of them they are related together by the student ID here. Right? So we have the once you have the student ID, you're able to access to the education, and you see that what is the first name, what is the last name, what is the date of birth, and what is the grade here. Can be A, B, C, something like that. Right? And it working from the finance, you also need the student ID only, and from that you're able to check the first name and the last name, and check if he got anything with the tuition fee or he get anything with financial aid here or not. Right? And for the grade here, from my instructor point of view, I don't care about the tuition fee or something like that. I just care about what is your the midterm exam, what is the final exam, and what is overall rate here. All of them, you see, all of them they are. This one is the database, and they include the multiple table, and this table here they are related together. Right? They have something in common here, student ID here, and this table here they are parallel array. They have the same size, and they are related together by the index here. Now we move to the string as the array of character. So we think about string. Actually, it is array, and it includes a lot of the character here. I think about you have the string here, you have the add here, you have hello here. This one is array, It's one array, right? It's one array, and the first element here, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth here. I think about that. So you can see you can declare the first name, right, as the array here, as a character of array, because this one here, the size of this one is that you have the maximum of the 15 character, right? And for the last name, the size you have the maximum of 20 character here. So when you have character number 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and so on here. And when you are able to combine them, you are able to concatenate the string of array together. You see, you have the input string number 1, and you have input string number 2. You are able to concatenate together by string number 1 equals to string number 3 equals to string number 1 and plus the string number 3 here. So we see if you enter the string number 1, the part here, and string number 2 is the time here. When you concatenate them together, you have the part and time. They concatenate it together here. Now we move to the string length and array. The string length and array size here. Right? So the length of the string is the number of the character it contains. So it actually contains here. Right? You think about this one here. Right? So we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one string length is 8 here. Right? String length 8. So string length is the actual how many character you have in the string. I have this one, and when you declare the array here, this one is 10 here, the array size. The array size is the maximum character you have. So when you declare string 10 here, actually you can use 1 character, 2 character, or up to the 10 character, but you cannot use for the 10 for 11 character here. So think about this one. You declare here. So with this one here, you have array size here is a 10. It's the maximum character you can have. But the actual length here, you have this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 here. That's why you have length up here, return is a 6 here. So you have to clarify the difference between the string length and the array size here. The string length is the actual how many character you have in the string, and the array size is what is the maximum character you can store in the string here. Okay, so we can use the length function to validate the input here. So we think about if you want to validate that whenever the user enters the username, you have to make sure that you have at least 1 character, but not more than 12 character here. So whenever he enters the name, so we see enter the username and so at least 1 character, but not more than here. So you store it in the variable. You store it in the variable here. So this one is string. This one variable here is string format. You have the string format here. This one is the array of the character here. Is this one here. So after that, you can validate. You set the valid equal to length of username here. So if you enter the name is John, something like that. So return you have a 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, right? But somehow if you enter something is too long, more than 12 character, you cannot do that. So we see it can validate here if everything between the 1 and the 12 is okay, right? It's okay. But if less than 10, if less than 1, you have to print down here, and if greater than 12, you have to print it out here. Okay. So you can example using the character array here. Character array, remember that when working the character array, you have to use the index here. You have the index, and in order index, you have to maintain something with the integer variable. It can be j, k, or cow, whatever it is. Whatever it is here. Okay, so that's the example you're working with this one. You have to self check here. Now we move to 2-dimensional, right? 2-dimensional right here. So think about, if you think about, you have the class here. I'm chapter, I'm a class here. So in that I have the student number 1 here, right? Student here. I have student number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Think about that, right? So for each student here, I have some exam, right? So you have the midterm here. You have the exam number 1 here, something like that. Exam 1, you have exam 2, and you have the exam 2 here, 3 here. Right? You see, if you look on this one, actually you're working with a table here. You working with the table here. So for every student, for each student, you have the 3 exam here. Number 1, number 2, number 3 here. You have this exam here, and this one is student number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you look on this one, you can work with the two-dimensional right here. You think about, you have score here. You have score. This one is the name of the two-dimensional array. I have score here. That is the name of two-dimensional array. And this one, when you have the two-dimensional array, that means you have 2 index here. So you have the 1 and 3, or you can have a 3 and 5. Sorry, 3 and 2, something like that, right? So how it work with two-dimensional array? You see, you have everything with the row here, right? The row number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have column here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. So when working with, when looking at the two-dimensional array, you see the first one here. The first one here is always the row here, the row order here. So we have 1, that means 1 here. You have 3, that means you have a 3 column here. So something you have to store everything here, right? So when you think about the two-dimensional array, you just think about the table, and in that you have the columns, and you have the in that you have the rows, and you have column here. And remember, the first index here it is index of the row, and the second is the index of the column here. Right? You think about this one, right? You think about this one. You have score here. You have score. It is the name of the two-dimensional array here. Right? And remember that in most of the programming language, the index starting from 0. Right? So we see if you score number 1, actually you have the row number 2 here. Right? You have the row number 2. This one is 0. This one is 1, and 0, 2, and so on. And this one 0, and so 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. So if you look on this table here, it is a two-dimensional array, and the name is score. And you see the row here, so the row here is a student, right? Student number 0, 1, 2, 3, and the column here it is the tag here. So tag number 1, number 3, number 4, something like that, right? So if you look on this one, if you look on score 1 and 0 here, you know that you have to look it up on this row here. Is this row? And the column number 0 here, you look it up is this one. So for this one, it return you 78 here. Right? That's the thing you're working with. That's the way you're working the two-dimensional right here. So tell me, if I have score 1 and 3 here, what I have? What I have here? Tell me.
64.
Okay, so we have the 1 here, right? You have 1 here, and number 3, 0.
Oh, 73.
You have 73 here, right? 73 here. So how about I have a score. I have a 3 and 2 here. What I have?
86.
77.
Yeah, 77.
You have no idea.
But yeah, no, it's 77.
You have you have no idea. You don't see anything with the 3 here. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. So actually, if you want, you can change it number 2 here. The number
so the format is the row and then the column.
Yes, you always think about that. You want to, the first index always the row, and the second index the column here. Okay. Okay. So when you think about two-dimensional right here, you can think about the netted loop. You got my point? You have the netted loop here. So the inner loop, everything about each student here. You run everything from 1 to 5 for this one, right? That is inner loop. And the outer loop is a student here. Everything done from the first student, the second student, and they go on here. So you think about, when you think about two-dimensional array, you also have to think about the table. You have a column. You have a row. Row is the outer loop, and you have a column. Column is the inner loop here. Okay. So here's an example here. If you take this one very simple here, to make it simple, I just take it number. Where is it? Make it 3 here. 5 is too many. That's why I just do a 3 here. So you have 3 students. You think about, we have a table here. You have 3 students, number 0, number 1. So when working the adapter is starting from 1, right? You have 2 and 3 here. So we have the 3 students, And for each student, you have to enter the 5 score here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 here. Now you do it this one. You see, in order to do that, you have to maintain the netted loop here. The inner loop, starting from the first column here, you do everything from 1 to 5. When you finish the first student, you go back to the second student, you do everything from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when you finish the second student here, you go to the third and you do everything from 1 to 4, 5 here. So you see, this one's outer loop. That's why you're starting with the student here, the row here. Student number 1, 2, 3, and the inner loop here, you're starting with the tat here, tat number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. Okay, so now try to working with this one with the raptor here. Try to working this one with the raptor here. Remember, from when working the raptor, the index starting from 1, right? So we have to set student here 1 at the beginning and the tat here so 1 at the beginning. So you have the netted loop, right? The outer loop is student and the inner loop is a tat here. We have student here. You have the 1 at the beginning and the tat also. Yeah, 1 at the beginning, right? Now you do the outer loop first. Outer loop is the number of student, right? So there's a number of student here, and the condition, right? You have the condition for you have only 3 students here. You have the 3 students here. So for this one, it's a condition to exit the outer loop. The condition to exit the outer loop when you have student here. Greater than 3, right? That's outer loop. Okay, so it's the outer loop already, right? So every time inside the outer loop here, what you have to do? You have inner loop, right? You have inner loop here. And the condition to enter the inner loop is that when you have the more than 5 testing score for each student here, right? So that's why you have the test here. Greater than 5. Okay. So now inside the loop, in the loop, what you have to do? You have to enter, right? You have to enter the score for student, right? So I have to enter here. You have input. And now you store it into 2 variable array. So it is score, it is the name of variable of the array, and you have the first index is a student here, right? And the second index you have the tag here. Right, that's all. Now see, when this one is enter, right? This one in a loop here. What do you think? What else you have to do in the inner loop here? Yeah. What do we think?
Test 1 equals, or bracket 1 equals test plus 1.
Yeah, right. You have to increase the tag here, right? You have to increase the tag here. That's why I just put this one here. I put it. I think this one here. Let me see. You have test equal to test plus 1. Right? So every time you see, so every time you starting from student number 1, right? So we have test number 1, number 3, 4, and 5. So when greater than 5, you come it back, right? You will come it back here. Where's the inner loop? Where's the outer loop here, right? This one you go to the outer loop here. So you see, whenever you finish for one student, that means you finish the 5 test, right? You have to move to the next student here. So when you move to the next student, what do you have to do? What do you have to do?
Input student.
Yes, you have to input student, right? That make it here. I have to input student here. Add, sorry, I have to put the add here. No add. Okay, add or whatever. Okay, and what else? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? So we see if you look on the table, right? So when we enter the first student here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, finish the first student. You go to the next student here. You starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that's why whenever you move to the next student, that means the outer loop here. You have to set the tag back to the number 1. You have to set the tag here number 1 here. You got my point?
Yes.
Otherwise, keep increasing that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is not good at all, right? Okay, so now let me run this one here. And the score number 1 for student number 1, it makes more sense when you present by this one, right? So it's very easy for the user to follow up with you. How many score you enter and what student it is. Right? So we have 15, this one 50 here. Right? 60. 70, 80. So now you see, I finished for the first student, right? So when I finish for first student, that means I finished for the first row. I have to move to the second row here. When I move to the second row, you see, I move to the second row here. I go to the student number 2 here. You see, this one is everything is row number 1 here. That means student number 1, he has the 5 score here. Now student number 2, right? So the first score 60, something like that, 70, 50, 80, 90. Okay, so we see second here, right? First row, first column, second column, third column, fourth and fifth. That thing about when working the two-dimensional array, you work in the table, you have the columns, sorry, you have rows and you have column. And row is the outer loop and the column is the inner loop here. Right? Another here. Okay, so we're done. You see, you've done with all of them. All right. So now, so next time, if you want to access it, if you want to access to the, if you want to check what is the score, what is the score of the student number 1 and the test number 3, you see number 1 here, student number 1 and 1, 2, 3 here, 60 here, right? And what is score of number 3, student number 3 and starting number 5? So we have the 3 here and the 5 here. Right? That's all. And of course, when you store into the array, you're able to access it later, and you're able to you do everything. You can print out which is average for each student here, and what's the average for the class here. That's it, totally flexible with that one. Right? Any question with this one? Let me know.
I'm good.
I'm good. I understand arrays.
Okay. So that is the way. Remember here, right? You only have the alternate loop to do with the two-dimensional array. Remember that the outer loop, everything it is a row, and the inner loop, everything is a column here. So you can do that, right? You can do that. You can do everything with the sum here. You can see what is the sum of them, and you're able to figure out what's the average for each student here, and you're able to figure out what is the average for the class here. Very simple, right? You can do it. Now the last one. Actually, it's the last thing in the class here. Working with the file. This one very interesting here. And if for this class here, sorry, for this module here, when working with the array and working the file here, you see that it's way easier when working with the final project here, and see how it's working with multiple user here. Now, so when working the file, you have two ways to do that. The first one, you are able to get the input and you write it into the file. And you know that the file, well, when working the file, you're able to store it permanently, right? If you don't store in the file, you just store everything in the variable, or you just store everything in the array. So when you exit program, everything gone because it's stored in the RAM. But when working the file here, you're able to store it into the hard driver, and you're able to permanently store it in the hard driver. So the next time, anytime if you want to access to the file, and you can retrieve the data here, right? So when working the data, you have two ways to do that. The first one, you are able to write it into the file, into the computer. The second one is that you are able to access the file in the computer and you get it out from that here. Right? So here's the first thing. The first is creating the data file here. You have to use the call function. You have to use the call function to redirect the output here. Is the redirect output here. And in the redirect output here, you're able to put the file name here, right? You have the file name. If you don't specify the part of the file name, it will install in the same directory of the Raptor program here. Or if you want to specify what is the program you want, you can specify the part here, right? You see this one specify here. This one, it will automatically set in the same location with the Raptor program here, Raptor. But this one is specify where you want to store it here, right? And that is when you open the file. And open the file in the computer. And now when you've done everything, remember that when you've done everything with the writing into file, you have to close the file, right? You have to close the file here by using the function here, redirect the output. You can put the note here, That means you complete the output here. Okay, so here's the example. If you look on this one, is an example when working the file here. And the first step here, you redirect the output, the clone function, and the sample. I don't specify any part here, so that we install the sample.txt in the same directory of my Raptor here. So inside the loop, I do for multiple times, right? Every time I enter the name, I enter the A here, the name, and so I keep asking you enter the name of employee and enter start to start here. I had to tell you enter start to start. So every time you check the name here, if the name is not start, keep doing it, right? So the next one, enter the salary here, right? The get salary. So I here 500, something like that, right? So the next one, I had to put here. I put the name plus dollar and salary here. So we write into the file here. You write into this one. I have A and this one 500 here, something like that. And if the next one I put the B and 1000 here, it will store into the second row. Every time this one here is one row, so we have the one row here and the second row here, and keep going on here. Right? So you can do with the Raptor for this one. You can try it here. So remember, if you want to write into data, you have the code function here, and this one you have redirect here. You have to redirect the output. So redirect the output here. You want to write down to the file, so you have to redirect the output here. Right. You write the output, and you can put the name here, or if you want to specify here, you're able to put the name here. So I put the sample here, t here. Okay. So after this step, it will generate the file in the computer on the same directory of my Raptor, and the name is a sample.txt here, right? So now I want to enter for multiple times for the username and the salary here. So I do the loop here. We do the loop here, and every time I asking him enter employee name, enter star to exit here. And now I put it into the variable name. So now I have to check the condition here. Its name equal to star exit the loop. Exit the loop. If not, I asking him again enter the salary. Okay, so I get it stored into the name from the user, right? I got it stored in the array salary here. Now, if I want to store it into the file, I have to do with the output here. I have to do with output here, and I have the name, plus, okay. So I do it for multiple times. Now, when I'm done with that, remember that I have to terminate it. The file here, terminate exit here, and I put it no here. Right? No, like that. So now to have it run here, I put 500 here, and I put B 1000 here, put C 2000 here, something like that. Now I put the star to exit it. Okay, so I will have the file name. It's a sample txt here. I don't know where I store my router, so I have a look it up. Sample where my router? I don't know where I store my router here. It should be somewhere here. Or I can modify it. I can modify it here. I specify my computer here, right? I have a C. I have a C. Right, let's see. Let's see. What the now? Why?
Is that a direct file on your computer?
Sorry.
Uh,
Yes, I have.
Like in your folders?
I can store in the C, right? Let me see.
It might be a folder inside of.
Yeah, maybe. So I can go to the C here and IV here, right? Why I cannot modify it? Okay, here. Oh yeah, right. So you're right. So I here, you 500 here. I have B, 1000 here. We have C, we have 2000 here. And I set it here. So now I can come back to my IV here. I have the file here. It automatically generates and I can double check. You see, I have A 500, you have B 1000 and C C 2000 here. And it's automatically automatically store into the file. And the next time if I want to do it, I can access to the file here and put down what's the name and what is the salary here. Right? The thing you're working is that one. So any question for this one?
No. We'll probably discuss it Thursday, but so I understand arrays better now, but I'm still I know you can't do the work for us, but I still am a little bit confused on how to use the arrays to actually create the ATM, you know?
Yeah, I know the question. Yeah, maybe we start we working on that on Thursday here.
Okay.
So now it's a create the data here, right? So now if you want to access and to display the data file here, right? So if you want to access it, you're able to go to the file, right? You go to the file here, and remember this one you have to call the function direct input here because you want to access the file and pull it out. That's why you have to redirect the input here, and you can call the function here and the input. You don't know how many recorded, how many rows it have in the data. So it can be 10, can be 5. So the function here, it works everything from the beginning to the end until the end of the file. So we use a function here and the input, and every time you get the record and put out the record, and after that you just close working the file here. So for this one, I just modified here. I just modified here. I just the input here. I have the input here and the same file. Right? So now I don't have the condition. The condition to access the file as the loop is and input here. Right? And input here. So every time I just get here. Right? No, this one actually you have to get here. So we have the input here. You get you can record here. Okay. So now I just print it out, right? I just print it out here. And remember this one, I had to put the input here. To finish it. Okay, so this file I already have, right? You know that for this one, I have this one here. I have the 3 rows here, 1, 2, 3. And when I working with this program here, it will access to the file. It read everything from the beginning to the end of the file. So every time it get out here, this one is every time it get out on the same row. So on the same row, you have name and salary, and you print it out here. Yeah, you see, you have the output here. So actually for this one, you access to the file and read everything from the beginning to the end. And every time you just store it into the variable record here, and you just print out what's recorded here. You got it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I don't share the screen here. Okay, so you see for this one here, this is the program here, right? So I access to the file, this one, and I read everything from the end to the file. Now I can run it here. You see, you have the output here. Right? If you look on the file here, you have 3 records here. This one, this one, this one. That's why when you access to this one, you print now here, everything's the same here. Okay. So, any question for this one? Let me know.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Basically, that's all for this class. You know everything about anything about the variable, everything about working with the selection, working with the sequence, working with the loop, working with the netted loop, working with the file, and working with the array here. So if you look on the announcement here, if you look on the announcement, let me go to the announcement here. Oh, I have not uploaded yet. Sorry, I think I have not uploaded it. So now I will upload the instruction to instruct you how to working with the final project with the array and the file here. I will upload it and we will have it discussed on Thursday. So on Thursday I'm looking on the homework for this module, and we will discuss a little bit about the final project here. I will upload it right now. So if you want, you can have it look right now if you want. And
Okay. I just have one last question.
yes.
I have like a second 8 weeks to the computer logic class. Are you going to be instructing that too? I don't look to see.
So say again, what was this?
There's like a second 8 weeks to the computer logic.
Sandgate?
There's a second 8 weeks.
The second 8 weeks?
Yeah.
The second week, I don't have any computer logic class.
Okay. Well, maybe maybe I have to look at my schedule again. I thought it was a 16-week course, and maybe it like broke.
But you already here on the computer logic already. So why you have to attend the second week also?
I guess that's what I didn't understand. I'll talk to an advisor or something about that, because basically it'd be the same course over again, right? Or what is it? Does it go more in depth? I don't know.
No, I have the second week. It is a introduction to software. It's not this one. It's a adapt 140.
Oh, 140. Okay.
Yeah, 140, not adapt 120 here.
Okay.
So I will upload the instruction file here right now, and if you want, you can look it up, and we will have to discuss on Thursday. Okay.
Okay.
And any other question from you guys? Let me know.
I'm
Any
good.
question?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I see you on Thursday. Bye bye.
Have a good one.